Hi guys, my name's Matt Winton. We're simply pouring all of the water all at once. Cheers. Hi guys, my name's Matt Winton. I'm the 2021 World Brewers Cup champion, and I'm here today with HARIO to teach you my winning recipe. I chose the metal V60 for my championship because it gave me the best clarity of flavor and brightness in the cup with my coffee. A little bit about the V60. It's a cone dripper, meaning it has this 60-degree angle. When you pair this with a paper filter from HARIO, we can get a bed depth in the bottom, and we pour water over the top, which will run through in multiple pours and give us a great extraction. All the V60 brews I do have great clarity of flavor, and it's really easy to use. And I'm going to show you how in this video. We need a V60, in this case, a metal V60. We also need some paper filters. This is the 01 size. You can also use the 02 size. We need our server. In this case, we're going to be using the 02 server, which I found has excellent headroom to give you a really nice aroma. We need our scale. We use a scale to keep consistency in our dose and the amount of water that we use to brew with. This recipe involves 20 grams of coffee using a 1:15 ratio of water, which means 300 mils of water. We're also going to need a kettle, and today I'll be using water set at 93 degrees, but for you at home, you can do this when it's a little bit off the boil, so bring your kettle to the boil and then wait 30 seconds or so, a minute. And the water that we're going to be using is just some good filtered water for coffee. So do your best to try find some yummy water. We need, of course, some coffee. Here I have a beautiful washed Ethiopian from a local roastery that's light roasted for filter. And in this case today, I'm using the electric grinder from HARIO. I'm going to grind this quite coarse today, and on a HARIO hand grinder, this will be about 12 clicks. So here we have our coarsely ground coffee. It's ground quite a lot bigger than for espresso because as we do each of our pours, we need the water to drain through quite quickly, and we're going to use agitation to extract the most out of our coffee. The next step is to get our filter paper. In this case, the 01 filter paper from HARIO. We simply fold along the edge, open it up so it's in that cone shape, and we pop it in our V60. Next, I'll be rinsing with water just from the kettle. It doesn't matter too much if it's hot or cold, just so long as you thoroughly wet and rinse the paper. Once all of our water is drained through, we're simply going to discard this water that was in there. If you have a porcelain dripper, it's important to rinse with hot water to preheat the dripper. But if you have a metal or plastic one, just like this, then you don't need to worry too much whether it's hot or cold water that you rinse with. So we're going to add our dose of 20 grams, and we're going to be pouring today in 5 pours. Like the name, 5-pour method. So with our coffee, what we want to be doing is have that nice and flat, because when we start pouring, what we're going to do is start to pour in the middle. We're then going to pour around the rest of the coffee to get it all wet, and then stop once we reach around 60 grams in this case. So now that we have everything that we need to get started, let's get brewing. I've called my recipe the 5-pour method. This is simply because we're going to be doing 5 pours of the water over the coffee each time to get an even extraction. Because our recipe is 20 grams of coffee to 300 mils of water, we're going to divide that 300 mils into 5 pours, which in this case is 60 grams per pour. You can always scale your recipe to make it larger or smaller, and just divide the total amount of water by 5, and that's what you have to pour. Nice and simple. The way that we're going to be pouring is quite aggressively, and we're going to be doing the next pour just as the water finishes dripping through the server. We're going to be running through all of this as I brew as well, so don't worry if it's a bit confusing now. everything will become clear in a moment. So, let's get brewing. We have our kettle here with our hot water at 93 degrees. We're going to tare our scale to make it back to 0, and we're going to start with our first 60 gram pour. We start the timer and we start pouring straight away. I'm going to pour in the middle and then around to make all of the coffee nice and wet, up to around 60 grams. In this case, 60 grams is the same as 60 mils. We're talking just about water here. For the first pour, I like to wait about 30 seconds just to make sure that all of the coffee is getting saturated nice and evenly, and we're going to have an even extraction of our coffee all the way through the brew. So now I'm going to start to pour the next shot. We're going to be pouring up to 120 mils, making sure that each of the pours are in the center and then around the sides. We want to start with it in the middle to get through the bed and then around the sides to get all of that coffee nice and wet. With our kettle, we're going to leave this off of the base, so it does start to cool down a little bit as we do those later pours. What will happen here is that we get a better taste of the cup when cool due to the lower temperature. Our next pour, up to 180. This pour, around the middle of it, is going to be responsible for a lot of those extra flavors that we have. I found a lot of research while I was doing the preparation for the World Championship, and this 5-pour method, it really kept on coming back to give us the best flavor and consistency. As you can see, the coffee is still running through the dripper. Once it's empty, or once it goes to this dripping like it is right now, we do our next pour. Nice and simple. In the center, around the sides, this time up to about 240 mils. It's okay if you're a little bit over or under, because what's going to happen is that we're just trying to get as close as possible to those 60 grams, but really, if you miss it, it's all right. It's not the end of the world. The idea behind this recipe is also to make something quite simple. We want you just to be able to break it down into these 5 pours, just as the water comes through the last one, and then we're going to pour the next one. Nice and easy. So I think we're just about ready for our last pour, and we're going to be pouring up to 300 mils, which is our total water weight. If we do happen to have a little bit over, what we're going to expect is a coffee that's a little bit more diluted, so a little bit weaker. If we have our total water weight that's going to be a little bit underneath this, we can expect a coffee that's a little bit stronger, but maybe also a little bit more acidic. I'm going to pop the kettle back now, and we're simply going to wait until our brew is finished. In this case, I think we're going to be looking for around 3 minutes 30. And what you'll find is if the brew takes too long and starts to taste a little bit dry or bitter, what you can do is make your grind size coarser. When you go more coarse on the grind size, the flow is going to be faster. If your coffee is going very quickly and tasting a little bit hollow or sharp or sour, you can fine up your grind size to make those particles smaller and get our drawdown even slower. So now the water is mostly finished dripping through, and the last parts of this are going to be tasting a little bit bitter anyway, so we can take our brewer off now. Here we have our brew. We're ready to drink. It's going to be a little bit hot, but one thing that I like to do is inhale the aromas first. With the HARIO server, it really directs all of these aromas straight up to your nose. This coffee is really floral. A washed Ethiopian coffee sometimes does tend to take a little bit longer to brew, but the taste is still really nice. I'm going to grab my MIOLOVE cup and pour it straight in. Now we can finish brewing, and I think it's time to enjoy. I really love this 5-pour method. It gives you such a clarity of flavor and an extraction that I haven't been able to find with any other method and dripper. Thank you for watching. My name's Matt Winton, the 2021 World Brewers Cup champion. I'd invite you to check out our other videos where I introduce some different recipes for different HARIO brewers. Happy brewing!